welcome to FEDBytes. I am here today with Arindam Nag, and I'm really thrilled to have him here. FEDBytes is about getting to know your virtual neighbor, about getting to know someone else in your neighborhood to expand your boundaries, even while we're here at home. Right now, we're in New York City, which is pretty much shut down because of coronavirus, and we're looking to connect and learn new things, even while from the comfort of our own home. So thanks, Arindam, for being here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
So with each episode, we've been preparing a dish that is the guest's favorite or something connected with them in some way. And I'm going to turn now to the kitchen cam for a minute and see what's going on over there.
Oh, hey guys.
Hello.
Yeah, this is Marav.
Hi.
Hello, Marav. How are you?
And Marav is chopping some fire roasted peppers to go into a dal. And what's a dal, Marav? It's like a gravy kind of thing? Yeah. So she's trying to add some vegetable components. Yep. I will add that knife that she's using is probably longer than her shin bone. And she is not afraid of it at all because she is a master, right? What else can we do, Deborah?
You want to explain what the potato dish is that you made and why you chose to make it?
Yeah, so the potato dish is basically French fries.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah, basically. And it's on the stove over there. It's cooking right now. And it's cut up potatoes, and then they put spices, I think.
A little bit, yes.
And then you put them, and then also on the stove. Then on the stove.
That's right. And it's called
Aloo bhaja.
Bhaja.
Yeah,
It's called Bhaja. And Bhaja is delicious, yes? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Good job.
Okay, great. So I think we're going to check back on the kitchen cam a little later. Thank you, Brian and Marav, for the great introduction to what you're doing over there. It's great. And again, I'm really thrilled that Arindam's on this call, and I'm going to ask him a few questions to get to know him. And then after, if other people have questions, we can have a conversation. We can just check in with each other and hear how everyone's doing. I think it's really important in these times just to get to know people and who they really are. So Arindam, tell me a little bit about your life's journey and what's your story?
Sure. So it actually when I was listening to Marav cooking the aloo bhaja, it kind of reminded me of my own childhood, because when I was growing up, we didn't have enough money in the house. Typical 1980s family in India, and I remember that dish, sliced potatoes and fried with some spices. That used to be our main course many times. But also, even if you had money, India in the 1970s, especially West Bengal, where I grew up in the late 70s, early 80s, was going through a massive recession. So my recent days visiting to the grocery store reminded me of my childhood, where you would walk in and you would walk in with a ration card, and they will hand you, depending on the number of people in your family, you'll be handed a pound of potatoes each. So we were 5 family members, and we were given 5 pounds of potatoes, which is like roughly 2.5 kilograms per week. And you couldn't buy any more. Same thing goes for sugar. So that was my childhood journey, growing up in West Bengal, in Calcutta. I was born in the UK, but when I was 8 years old, my family moved back to India, and it was an entirely different life. I went to school there, and it taught me many things, respecting money, respecting family members, looking out for each other. And then I became a journalist. I started working when I was studying, and I moved from Calcutta, I moved to Bombay, I moved to New Delhi. I was a political journalist in the beginning, but I always wanted to write about economics, because what interested me was, how do people actually earn money, and how do people maintain a standard of living, how do they grow? And eventually I became a business journalist. And from then I joined a company called Reuters in Bombay. Then I moved to the UK, and then I moved to the US. So I've traveled around a bit. I mean, one thing that I will say, and this is something that I was remembering today, is it doesn't really matter where you live, where you come from, what kind of a family you come from. One thing that brings people together is the strong bond among people. Even these times when we are in grave danger, we don't know whether we will get impacted by the coronavirus or not. But one thing that keeps us together is family and love, and the way we interact with each other.
Amazing. That's really powerful for today to be thinking about in today's world. So it definitely sounds like you've lived in a lot of different places. I'm wondering what home means to you, based on your experiences.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And I would say home to me means where I am loved most and where my family is. And I could potentially make home anywhere in the world, as long as I have my family members and my friends with me. I do have a sense of belonging in many places. When I grew up in Calcutta, my sister still lived there, and I know that if I go there, I would be welcomed back, and I'll have a great time. But then my immediate family members, they live in New York, and I know that my heart will crave even if I spend 3 months in India. And then I was born in the UK, so to me, family, home in particular, means where I can enjoy my work, which is writing and connecting with people. Secondly, where I can feel loved by my family members. And I think third thing is that where I have enough freedom in places where you often cannot do many things. And I'm very grateful that in New York City, I have a freedom, to express myself, to do what I want to do, to say what I can say. And it's been my adopted home for the last 15 years.
That's really interesting. I know you founded Sensei, which is a growing digital platform focused on financial wellness.
Mm-hmm.
How did you decide to start that?
Yes, that's a good question. So I think the seeds of it were planted. I was writing a column called "The Hood on the Street" for the Wall Street Journal, and during the credit crisis, I saw many strong, powerful stories, and I will never forget. Every Saturday, when I was living in England, I would do a voluntary work for the local council, and it was actually near my place in Wimbledon. And there were 30 or 35 women. They were in this class, and this was one of those Saturday classes where people come in to study about finance, English, writing, and my job was to teach them basic economics. And I remember one woman raised her hand and said, if people in America are defaulting on their mortgages, why is it affecting us? And I draw 3 homes of 3 different cities on the whiteboard, and I also bought a cake during lunchtime, and I cut the piece of cake, telling them that these are the mixture of all these loans, and now these pieces of cake have now traveled around various parts of the world. Now you tell me, if this gentleman owning this house defaults on the mortgage, who is owning his loan? And all 35 hands went up. So I realized that if you actually explain finance simply, people actually get it. And during the credit crisis, I learned that a lot of Americans, especially, they had a very low level of financial literacy. So when 2015, 2016 came, and my partner Doria and I, we got together, and we decided to create something that will help ordinary people learn about finance. We decided to launch a solution that solution is a technical word, just a website that adapted storytelling and personal anecdotes and using them to teach about money and how do you save, how do you budget. I still remember one young woman, she wrote a very touching story about she grew up in a single mom household, and she got a full scholarship and she took some grants as well. And her story went almost viral 3.5 years ago. And it was a personal story, and we realized that we were onto something. So Sensei, today, we've had almost 2.5 million people visiting our platform. The website is called sensei.com. It's a play on the Japanese word sensei, which means teacher. But what we are doing is helping many young people to manage their finances in a smart way without necessarily having to go through textbooks or any other complicated articles.
Cool, that's amazing. I think a lot of people feel very overwhelmed about personal finances or don't consider themselves financially savvy. I think especially where we are right now with the economy is frightening and can be a little overwhelming for many.
Absolutely.
What do you think? What advice would you give people who are feeling this way?
So I think first, I will say that the first advice I would give is that not to panic. And I know it's easier said than done, but especially if you're losing jobs and if you're using source of income. But what I'm hearing from our political leaders and our policymakers is that there will be some help coming to people's way, especially people who are earning below $100,000. They will be getting some money from the government to see through. But I think what is most important is that many employers, businesses, small businesses are also, they will also be getting help to ensure that they keep the doors open. If we can get past the next couple of months, I think we're going to see a turnaround in the economy, probably much faster than the economic growth was already there. And I think this is kind of reflected in the recent stock market activity. We saw rises in the stock market for the last 3 days. And people who trade, they're normally pretty smart. They can anticipate what's going on. I would say that people should stay calm, number one. Number two, ensure that they're budgeting. Now is not the time to make any extravagant purchases. And I would also advise people that once they get back on their feet, to ensure that they are taking a close look at the investments and increasing their investments, increasing their savings, and ensuring that they live on a budget, because this could happen again.
That's really sound advice. Going back to Sensei, what skill of yours do you think has made it possible for you to be successful?
Sure. So I think by nature, I'm a storyteller. Even when I was a kid, my first article came out in a national newspaper when I was 13. And I realized that I had a skill. Like when you're 13, 14, you have no idea what you're going to do in life. And when I realized that I had a skill that very few people in my class or among my peers had, I kind of held on to it. In retrospect, I feel that it was something that kind of defined me on how I wrote, how I spoke. So I just wanted to use that in my job, in my career. I still remember when I told my parents that I wanted to be a journalist. They were shocked, because in India, you either become a doctor or you become an engineer, or you chose a profession where you went to college, you did your master's, and you did something that was more exotic, so to speak. And being a reporter or a journalist was not considered cool in my culture. So, but nevertheless, I embraced writing, and that was one of the skill sets that led me to help create Sensei. My ability to connect with people, take a piece of information, breaking it down, and show people how this can be used in the day-to-day life.
Brilliant. No, that's amazing, and seems true based on my experience of you as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. What's your greatest dream or vision for yourself, your company, or the world? And how will you know when we're all successful?
Sure. Yeah. So Sensei is a small company. As of now, it's a startup. We started a few years ago, and we are still growing. And I have a very good team surrounded by me, like Emily, Doria, and we have a good group of people in New York and outside New York. And what we want to do is grow it into a platform where, like, when you have a crisis like what we are having today, people actually can come to Sensei and see, okay, how do I protect myself? How do I save myself? How can I grow once I'm on a firmer footing? I mean, we are also talking to a couple of financial institutions outside the United States, and they came to us saying, look, we like the way you teach money, we like your content, can we have that on our website? So there is a growing need for financial education in general. I think education, people take it very seriously, and they should, but I think education for a lot of people is linked to things like people get educated because you have to have a profession, you have to earn a living. What people often forget is that financial education, you may not be in finance, but you need to understand finance because you're managing money of your own every day till you die. So my goal is to see that Sensei becomes a go-to platform, just like a dictionary, where people can learn in a fun way and understand how various pain points in their financial lives can be solved.
It's great. It's a big vision. And what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs who are looking to change the world?
I would say be patient, be empathetic with people, because you can never build a company without the help of people. I mean, I know that despite my skills, I would not be able to do what I have done so far without skill sets of my team members, and respecting team members, recognizing what their strengths are, recognizing what the weaknesses are, so that you can actually ignore them and focusing on their strengths. That's the big thing that a lot of entrepreneurs forget. A lot of entrepreneurs take the approach that it's my way because I'm the owner of the business. I mean, the moment you do that, you're basically doomed. You have to take your team with you. The third thing I would say is never take your eyes off the ball and what's happening around you. In a day-to-day life, I see a lot of businesses have come forward on a lot of new areas, whether it's science or business or finance. They don't know what their competition is doing because they're so much involved in what they are doing that they have forgotten to open the window and see what else is going on. And the other day, I had a company visiting us, and he showed me his product. And I said, "Are you aware of this company?" And he had no idea this company existed, but this company was doing exactly the same thing that he was doing. So that's something that I always tell people: to look over the competition, see what they're doing, and if you have to change your mind, if you have to change your idea or pivot, do it, because otherwise you will not grow.
It's really great advice. So switching gears a little bit, what is some of your favorite food? And
I certainly love aloo bhaja. I know it's enjoyed by members of my family. My daughter likes it. I know my partner likes it as well. I do like Japanese food. I do like especially. I like the variety of soups. They're easy to make. I would say I do like a couple of Indian dishes. I like a lot of lentils. I think as I'm growing older, I'm developing a special taste for a variety of vegetables. I think to me, food is very special because I'm the kind of guy who, even if I, let's say, lived on an island on my own, I would find a way to make my own food because it kind of adds an extra element of creativity and source of inspiration when you're creating something on your own.
I can definitely relate to that. I think it says a lot about a person, the kinds of food that they enjoy. So thank you for sharing. And at this point, I'd like to open it up to others if they have questions for Arindam or anything in particular that you'd like to share about yourself or about anything, any of the information that's been shared. Yeah, go for it.
I have a question.
Hey.
Hi. So you were mentioning that, like, you just now you were mentioning even if you were stranded on a desert island, like, you would find a way to cook your own food. So my question is in two parts. What are the kind of foods that you like to sort of be creative with instead of just following a recipe?
Yep.
Sort of step by step. And then are there recipes or are there things that you do in the kitchen that you see parallel things that you learn in other areas of your life?
Yes. So let me just take a step back. So one of my favorites band are the Beatles. And there are a couple of albums of the Beatles that resonate with me when you have John Lennon and Paul McCartney actually kind of jamming with sitar and doing fusion music. And they're not very mass, they're not mass music, but they are good, exotic music that you enjoy. So to me, in the kitchen, and I'll give you a quick example, something that I did the other day, I do believe that you can actually blend food from various nationalities and make your own creation. So yesterday, I made a very simple beef dish. It was basically beef pancakes. But while I was preparing my stuff, I realized that I could actually blend my recipe with Italian tomato basil sauce. Now, I was creating a Turkish beef pancake dish, but I blended it with Italian sauce, and it tasted great. And again, you recognize that you've created something when you get the positive response from people. So that's something that I like to do, like mixing different countries' spices with different dishes and see what happens. I mean, I think the kitchen is the world's most, should be the world's most popular laboratory where you can make experiments every day.
It's totally true. Kevin, what's something creative you did in the kitchen this week?
I made a twice baked potato dish where I baked potatoes and then let them sit overnight in the fridge. Ran them through a cheese grater and mixed a whole bunch of different veggies, eggplants and peppers and kale and carrots and Brussels sprouts, some yogurt, scallion yogurt and cheese, and threw it all back in the oven. Made
Oh, wow.
this kind of casserole. Yeah, it's nice and hearty for our cold quarantine days.
Yeah, it's important to keep busy in the kitchen these days. That's good advice. Yeah.
Yes.
So I guess then the second part of my question is, like, when you're creating in the kitchen, are there things that you think, this kind of sort of process or this sort of melding of things can be applied somewhere else? Like, I know for me, there are dishes that teach me to be very patient. There are dishes that teach me how to micromanage and how not to micromanage. Are there specific dishes or cuisines or anything that where you find it sort of applies elsewhere as well?
Yeah, I think that is actually such a powerful question, because one thing that I have learned over time is whatever you do, you have to focus, right? You have to apply your mind and focus on one thing. However, there are things that you do have to multitask. And beyond a certain point, unless you're making bread and butter, most good meals, you have to multitask simultaneously. Like you have to have 3 pots and on 3 stoves and pretty much almost work like an orchestra, right? And I have to say that that actually has helped me a lot in my day-to-day, like in my day-to-day life. I often have to balance between my personal life or dealing with something that needs my attention and the family with work. And after I've accomplished it, I often surprise myself that, blimey, I actually got it done despite everything. And I have to say that some of those skills, I think I have honed during my cooking. Like, like yesterday when I was doing this dish, I actually had to boil potatoes, steam the meat, and also uh, create the sauce in a low heat, pretty much simultaneously. Why? Because I had to mix them together at the same, basically at the 20th minute. I have to bring them all together. So those are the things that I cherish, and I'm glad that I've I've taken up cooking, or I've been a cook for many years, but I'm able to use some of the skill sets and keep my brain sharp, which helps me in my day-to-day work.
Yeah, the timing piece is also so key. Like when you have to line everything up, and the timing has to be so exact sometimes.
Yes.
It's a good, you're right, it's a good life skill for being able to balance and time
Yeah.
things.
And cooking is also a big memory game. I mean, let's say if you're putting in a string of spices and one of them is parsley, and if you forget parsley, let's say that's your spice number 9, and you forget that, you will realize that you did not put parsley when you're eating.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Do you have other pastimes other than cooking that you enjoy, Arindam?
I do enjoy watching cricket. I do enjoy watching television. There are a couple of shows that I watch fairly regularly. I mean, the thing is, in the last few years, my startup has taken so much of my time. But I'm hoping that once I'm able to get to a certain level financially, hopefully I'll be more comfortable. I do want to do a little bit of traveling. Haven't done it in a long time. I do want to spend some more time reading as well. I don't think I've read a book in a long time, but I do want to get back to reading as well.
I love to check in with everyone in general, just about how life is with the current situation. And
I have to say that there are two things that I do believe in. I mean, I came to New York first time in 2001, literally 2 months before 9/11, and I was living in Midtown Manhattan, and I saw the spirit of New Yorkers and how they turned around. It took time, but we did turn around, and how we looked out for each other. And I still believe that what we are going through, while this time the enemy is unknown, but I think if people listen to authorities and listen to follow all the rules and regulations, I still think that we can turn around. I know a lot of people are fearing an economic downturn. I would say that I am, if not astounded, I'm impressed with the speed at which the government is approving the $2 trillion bill, the stimulus, which means there will be support and people will be able to get back their jobs, those who've lost their jobs, and the companies who have been thinking about what to do in the near term will have the comfort of a turnaround. And economies always turn around. I mean, economies never remain in a downturn forever. And I think what we're going to see in New York City, it is going to take some time, at least another 4 to 5 weeks. But I think the city is going to bounce back. The country is going to bounce back. And I think overall, globally, we're going to see much more coordination. This is a strong message to a lot of people who have been propagating the message of nationalism. I think those voices will become dimmer and dimmer. I think what's happened today in the recent weeks, this is the time for the entire world to be united and help each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I certainly hope you're right. I also feel like there's just so much resilience in the city that it's really an incredible thing to be a part of.
Absolutely.
Kevin, how are you doing over there?
I'm good. I actually, not to bring everything down, but I just found out a friend of mine passed away today from complications of COVID-19.
So sorry to hear.
So,
I'm really
thanks.
sorry to hear that. It's really terrible news.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know what exactly the situation was, but that's where we are.
Yeah. Which hospital was that?
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I'm very sorry to hear.
Yeah, it's really terrible.
Well,
It's hard. Yeah, it's a hard time.
by all means, take care of yourself.
Yeah. I'm one of the few who still has to go into the office every day.
Ah,
So I can report that Midtown is empty.
yeah.
Everything is shut down. Bergdorf Goodman, I walked past the other day. There's a big closed sign in its window. It's me, the construction workers, and lots of sirens.
Yeah. I walked past the Brooklyn Methodist Hospital today, and I saw there was this big white tent, and I knew that they probably put emergency beds there.
Yeah, it's wild.
But Deborah, thank you very much for hosting this.
Thank you for being here, and I'm glad we're here for each other. That's what's important, right, in these times.
Absolutely. And
Thank you.
Brian and Merav, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Brian and Rob, for cooking for us. And
Thank you.
thank you everyone for being here and for being part of this. We're going live on Thursdays at 8 p.m., so feel free to tune in next week.
Absolutely.
And yeah, we'll just keep doing what we're doing and hope for better times. That's the idea.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arindam.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.